going for some of those more aggressive options, Sylvanas included apparently, because that's on the table. We'll see if the Valkyries decide to take that away on the top 3. I doubt it, but maybe if they save Bobby's pick for the bottom half of the draft. The Valkyries in that first pick position usually like to try and prioritize those gods for zeros, as we've been talking about.
Maybe looking towards eliminating stuff such as Artemis going to already make its debut. All Valkyries have determined they do not want to see the Solar Scarabs dual lane try to deal with any sort of Caledonian boars. It is a pretty big team fighting advantage. Odin has been another incredibly popular pick, and I think, I was expecting the Valkyries to look for a ban away of it, but I think because of the fact they're in that first pick position, Solar Scarabs maybe felt a little bit more pressured to try and strip that one away.
And it ends up with a Tiamat ban alongside it. So Artemis and Tiamat, premier backliners, banned away so far by the Valhalla Valkyries, whereas the Solar Scarabs looking more towards that front line in the Odin and the Gilgamesh. With only Tiamat off the board, I'm looking at some of these mages. They got to start to get banned soon, or else they're going to be left open.
I think Zeros is totally happy whenever he can get that Raijin pick. Wouldn't be surprised to see it come through as a first pick option either, but if the Valhalla Valkyries don't ban Giannis here, wouldn't be surprised to see Baronic respond in kind with that through space and time. Global assets, always a big benefit, and Solar Scarabs kind of anticipating them to maybe look towards banning away either an Osiris or Loki pick, really just try and prevent Johnny from finding himself in a comfortable position.
Those have been picks that he's liked recently. Fenrir as well comes to mind as something that both Scream and Johnny have locked in the last few weeks. The Valkyries really taking their time to think over this third ban. It's going to be Sobek, interestingly enough. I mean, we were just talking about inbound on these aggressive supports, but Sobek doesn't really feel like that premier aggressive support right now.
Well, it could just be something that Zeros doesn't like dealing with whenever he's on the Raijin. Really just all depends, because Sobek can be rather annoying with the plucks in general, but I agree. I don't think that he really screams that much of pressure, at least. Like, he can definitely have some solid initiation, but if you're looking for a pressure pick, Emoja can certainly get the job done. Raijin having been taken off the board there for the Valhalla Valkyries to shift their focus elsewhere now towards that front line. But I don't think that Yamoja is something that the Solar Scarabs would have opted for outright, aggro.
Maybe. They have liked it, but inbound's win rate, of course, well talked about at this point on that Yamoja pick. But he has looked really good on it the last few weeks, and I think the results, much like the Solar Scarabs roster, the results not really reflecting the level of play on that pick in particular. So the Valkyries do take it away from him, and it's going to be a Cerberus pick as the response, immediately locking in something that can build some anti-heal, has it innately, of course, but then that Tainted Steel start might be looking attractive here to the Solar Scarabs, as Cerberus and Giannis are their first two picks.
No real surprises seeing that Giannis come through yet again for Baronic. Have to remember that was also another reason why those bolts ended up dropping a game to this Solar Scarabs roster. Baronic was having a fantastic time in the late game with through space and time, and accuracy, not even really so much a necessity when it comes to Giannis. It's more so just the fact that you just cut off the escape factor entirely for the opposing team, especially surrounding that objective play. But with Osiris having been left open, Valhalla Valkyries probably happy that they're able to secure that one for themselves. Granted, if they don't take Zeros' pick now, there's a very strong likelihood the Solar Scarabs are just going to opt to ban everything away.
Yeah, that's where I'd expect them to go for sure, but they decide not to. It's Osiris and Heimdall, the two picks here for the Valkyries. Worth noting that Baronic's last 3 games on Giannis, his score lines are 1-0-4, 5-2-10, and 4-1-5. Now, only one of those is a victory, but still some good score lines across those games, so has been pretty successful on it as of late. And it will be the Fafnir as the lock-in here for inbound. So it will be Cerberus in the solo lane as expected for Solar Patrol. And we were looking for something aggressive for inbound. Does Fafnir fit that bill enough for you?
I think that Fafnir certainly gets the job done as far as outright aggression is concerned. The main thing is I want to see Solar Scarabs kind of round off some components to really complement that coerce, because when you see Fafnir, you immediately think objective burn, objective shred, but might not necessarily be the case depending on what they choose to follow it up with. And I also really like the Fafnir here, though, just for the simple fact that Disarm's going to be incredibly annoying for the likes of a Heimdall to deal with, especially in that early to mid game. Same thing for Osiris. So I feel as though leaving the Cerberus open to build a little bit more hybrid, it's a lot of damage that could be coming out of this Cerb solo in that mid game.
And especially when you've got a Giannis in the mid lane whose magical damage isn't quite as consistent as other mages, adding something like the Cerberus feels really good there. As it is some mages banned away here by the Solar Scarabs. It's going to be Hell and the Morgan that are denied from zeros in this game. That does mean, notably, Taco, that Morgan Le Fay is still open.
Morgan Le Fay is open, but how comfortable Zeros feels with it is another discussion entirely. Although the fear might be appealing because a lot of what the Solar Scarabs have opted for so far in terms of frontline is within that melee range. So Morgan Le Fay, I think, has some decent range, but it's not going to be locked in just yet. Toying around with the idea of Hercules instead. A lot of aggression, at the very least, from this Valhalla Valkyries composition. I think whether it's Hercules or Osiris, I'm kind of leaning more towards Hercules in that solo lane as opposed to the Osiris. Really don't know how to feel about Hercules jungle. Think that that one's better left in the vault, personally. But I think it's important to also note Solar Scarabs, only member right now that can't get out of that River's Rebuke. It's going to be Stewart on this Hachi.
Stewart on the Hachi could struggle in that regard, as it is a Persephone. I was going to bring that up. Between Morgan Le Fay and Persephone, the two mages that I'm a little surprised are left open. Persephone seemed pretty hot and cold so far in her first few debut games in Phase 2. How do you think Zeros is going to fare on it here?
I think that Zeros has probably missed the likes of Persephone. I have not missed having to deal with Persephone in games, but she could definitely put a pretty big damper, again, just highlighting the fact that a lot of this frontline melee range damage from the Solar Scarabs, Fenrir only going to enhance that even further.
Defeat the Scarabs previously in their last engagement, though that was before the Scarabs were able to get their newly formed roster. That was kind of at a weakened state for them. But now we get to see the Valkyries take on the newly reformed Scarabs, who've been looking so hot in these last few sets that they've played. Haven't been able to find a win in their column just yet, but that doesn't short anything for it. This Scarabs roster has been looking very strong since their change. Items that they'll go towards at the back end, if it'll be the hammer or if it'll end up being the spear.
Yeah, I think it is a little bit more likely to be the spear. Hammer seems like it's really fallen off in favor of some of these players recently, as Zeros caught out in mid, dropped down to just below 20% HP. Scream had the opportunity to chase that one out if he was willing to trade out his life for first blood, and that's how that would have gone. Likely would have got it, but definitely doesn't get out of there alive. Yeah,
I think if Scream was there like a half second earlier, he would have for sure jumped at the opportunity once he felt the Valkyries maybe not doing quite the homework for it to see, and this Giannis has been a slippery target for anybody who's been piloting it.
But there's just so many good mages right now.
There really
Raijin, Giannis, Yamoja, Persephone, all that stuff, but it's Johnny caught out inside the jungle taking a lot of damage.
Stuck by the hammer from inbound. He'll have to use Lord of the Afterlife to get back over the wall as 4 members of the Scarabs rotated to the back Harpy camps. Start slowing down their pace. We started seeing the Scarabs making a group around this left side, and Valhalla Valkyries in tow along with it. It'll be Rapper and Johnny looking to steal away these Oracle Harpies so they can have that vision, but inbound managed to sneak one of them away from it, so no vision control goes for either teams. Instead, it'll be a swift retreat from the Scarabs as they make their way back towards mid and try and keep themselves in this matchup. Veronic not getting a huge experience lead like to see, but Johnny gets caught out from the Ragnarok, or from the Unchained. Immediately has to leap away, get the Dragon Form and Baronic's ultimate, chasing him down. SOT has even made a rotation towards this side of the map. They're able to pick up Johnny. It looks like they'll grab Zeros as well, as inbound is the one who gets the credit for that kill.
2 for 0 in favor of the Solar Scarabs. Phenomenal rotation from SOT, changes that engagement and flips it on his head. Where's Ducky? Where's the other solo laner? Well, he's still inside of the short lane. Maybe a little bit too late on his rotation. Gold Fury burning very fast.
Emil and Raph are here to try and potentially steal this one away, but it looks like they'll just set their sights towards Emil instead. And he had 100% health, and then he had nothing as soon as all 5 turned. But they've all taken maybe just a little too much damage, and now with Ducky rotating over, the Scarabs, they get their kills, but they're not able to take that Gold Fury. SOT is not worried at all about the damage that could come from either of these physical warriors for themselves. Johnny rotates over. It's going to be the same thing. You're looking at double physical protection out of SOT, plus a nice little bit of damage coming from that plate helm. Quite a bit of damage actually stacked on that item. So not only will SOT not take a lot of damage, he'll be able to deal a lot of damage right back. Rapper and Emil trying to go for a purple buff steal and try and strip this one away from Stewart, and they will be successful in doing so. Inbound a little late on his rotation to try and stop them.
Stewart inbounds, maybe they can get aggressive here. The It's Ducky who's being aggressed on the opposite side.
Ducky's not quite as tanky as SOT, and he's got to deal with both forms of damage. Get a nice driving strike will push Scream away, but he's walking away from his own tower, and SOT with the Ghastly Breath, more than enough damage to take down Ducky.
Solar Scarabs off to a roaring start. Johnny trying to make something happen on the opposite side.
Looking for Stewart. He's got the horse to walk away as fast as possible. Veronic has rotated over to save his mid laner. Johnny manages to walk out of the walls, but that's going to be it for it as Raffer is able to get him back to safety with those walls. So, inbound Stewart not able to collapse and get that kill. Nice rotation from Veronic, but stop dead extracts from this Umoja.
First 7 minutes of this game was pretty slow. Seems like the ceasefire ends there. In the last 3 minutes, we've picked up 4 kills, all going the way of the Chaos team. And the leads haven't really shaken out as I had expected. I thought we'd see a little bit more insofar as experience. Emelito, though, picks up Stewart.
Stewart just walked back into lane. Yeah, you've got your support there with you, but you had, like, what, a quarter health available? I'm not sure why you decided to walk back through, and Emelito decides to take the aggressive power play option. And just
one of his camps, but I don't know, that damage output from SOT is pretty chunky. So the Solar Scare is going to utilize his pressure to look at the Pyro.
Immediately they'll rotate 3 towards it. Even SOT will now make his way over, but as soon as they go to the Pyromancer, a quick response from the Valkyries, they head towards the Gold Fury, and no one's on this side of the map just yet, but they got Veronic with that through space and time to immediately dive in. Raffer uses the walls, but immediately they turn away from the Gold Fury and look towards Veronic and inbound. Veronic taking a ton of damage from Johnny, but Johnny also losing about half his health. Ultimate comes out from zeros, but immediately inbound will use the beads to get away.
It's inbound to Veronic, dropped low inside his engagement. Valhalla Valkyries now falling back and utilize the healing from Raffer if they want to keep this pressure up. That was an expensive fight for the Valkyries, though. 4 ultimates down. Stewart with Heavenly Banner to boost your team as well. I think this Gold Fury would burn pretty fast.
And even though we saw 4 ultimates expended for the Valkyries, they took 3 relics in tow with it, looking for Raffer or the Scarabs. He'll get through a Riptide, and that's the one tricky part of trying to lock down Umoja. She's got a decent amount of CC into her kit, but that Riptide, more than anything, is so difficult to chase into. Not only do you get knocked around all over the place, but you're slowed after walking through it, where they get a movement speed, and they also bounce a lot further. But Scream doesn't care about that. He'll look for Johnny instead, pulling him the back with no beads available. Johnny still looking rather healthy. It's now Stewart and Scream who are in a little bit of danger. Ducky drops the boulder, and Stewart is down to such low health. He's got to run away with the horse, trying to run as far as he can, but Johnny will blink in and hit him with the sickle to take him down. That's 1 for the Valkyries, and maybe looking for a second as inbound gets pulled back in.
Inbound dropped low, but Johnny's lower, using the ultimate, the Lord of the Afterlife, to chase it out, but does not connect.
The walls from Raffer make sure SOT can't find him. Veronic is on the chase, looking for Johnny now, down to a quarter health, but he'll juke around the unstable vortex. Veronic wasn't able to connect the damage, and now Johnny is turning it back around. Portal is dropped, but he's not going to make it through. Raffer and Johnny cut him off and take him down.
Meanwhile, in the back, Ducky finally makes his stamp known in this fight, zoning off 3 members. Inbound and Scream have to be basebound at that HP. Valhalla Valkyries, though, having lost their ADC in trade, also lose their ability to go for the Gold Fury on the tail end. Raffer a little bit saucy on the map with the Salt Shaker emote, letting the Scarabs out. It was very easy to apply. Gold Fury, though, is started up by the Scarabs. They're willing to take this fight yet again.
Gold Fury already down to half health with all 5 members of the Valkyries here. No one will get there in time.
He's just trying to slow down this farm from Scream.
And just as easily as Scream was down to half health because of that Bumba's Dagger, able to get a nice chunk of it back when those back Harpy camps got taken, so there was no further chance for Ducky to take down the jungler. Instead, the Valhalla Valkyries turn their sights towards the Draugr, making sure that Emelito can pick that one up.
Goodness.
Ducky goes for a blue buff invade, but is unsuccessful in stripping that one away from SOT. As Ducky now has to run because Scream has come back from the fountain, is looking for a fight, but Leap isn't there from Scream and Selby through space and time, and a Ragnarok to try and chase him down. They're expending a lot just to try and find Ducky. They get his purification beads away, and the Riptide from Raffer will try and zone him out, but a double leap in from Scream is going to get a huge stun against the 2 of them as we wait for the fight to break through to see if Ducky is able to make it out of this.
A lot of other abilities trying to chase out this Herc.
Yeah, they're just trying to do anything they can. They do manage to take down Ducky and Johnny in the process of the fight. Inbound leaping forward, gets a stun against Emelito, and SOT puts him in the dirt with the paralyzing spin. Yeah, it did more than paralyze him, it actually puts him in the grave, and Raffer on the run. Gets a stun against SOT, but a quick beads from the Cerberus will make sure that he does not get stunned away. Instead, it'll be a triple kill for Solar Troll.
Little 3-piece for the 3-headed dog here. Meanwhile, Pyromancer, you're right to say it, is incredibly risky. Maybe less so now that Stewart has started to rotate his way in. should spell the end of that neutral objective. Only trading out temporaries, and SOT finds himself in a position now where he can start looking at just damage, and I wouldn't argue against it. Ducky, again, being aggressed on by Scream.
Scream will pick him up, throw him back through space and time.
Almost.
Won't connect, but at least get Baronic towards that side of the map looking for Ducky. Driving strike is good. Inbound is even here. They are really... I don't know what Ducky said to the Scarabs before this game, but they are not happy about it. Rotating all 4 players that aren't SOT towards that side of the map to take him down, but now looking towards Fire Giant.
It's an immediate dragon transformation from Inbound, and that Coerce is going to tick true. SOT acting as goaltender finds Zeros, and good luck walking past him.
But Raffer and Johnny are in tow on the backside. Zeros will fall down instantly. As soon as he had the opportunity to try and fight, he was already dead. But Johnny and Raffer are here. Fire Giant not leashed. Raffer drops the ultimate looking for it, but it's a reset from the Scarabs. They reset and take down Johnny instead. 3 away from the Valkyries, and now the Scarabs turning their sights towards Raffer, or at least back towards the Fire Giant. Inbound de-transforms inside the pit, and 4 of them are still here. Raffer still has potential to steal this, but the ultimate from SOT may have just sealed their fate as the Solar Scarabs do pick up Fire Giant, and 1 more kill to boot.
Amelito elects not to rotate into the death pit that is Fire Giant like the rest of his team. Stands between the Scarabs and the exposed birds of the Valhalla Valkyries. We talked about the siege defense, so why not talk about the merits of the Solar Scarab siege? And it's pretty strong. And it's not necessarily because of the composition. It might just be the lead. It might just be the Fire Giant on all 5 members. It might just be the Dragon form Coerce on the entirety of the team.
Veronica will rotate in, and their next objective is going to be this mid lane. Phoenix, they'll dive into it, instantly Scream in the backline, finds Emilitu's beads, off immediately with the Ragnarok, and Raffer will now be the goaltender for them. His ultimate is down as well, though, and the Solar Scarabs continuing to push into this Phoenix. Raffer is very low. The Scarabs get the Phoenix as their prize, and looks like they're comfortable with walking away with just that.
It is not comfortable for Ducky, though, who looks for the re-engage. Blink in, finds nobody with the pull on the Solar Scarabs. They've got bigger fish to fry. Right side already being pushed by the minions. Might as well pick up that tier 2, fall back to the Pyro, back and buy, and head over to Fire.
Baronic still has his ult as well as Stewart. Ducky goes for the push against SOT, but ends up missing and maybe walking into his own death trap. Inbound dives against Emily2, doesn't his beats, and through space and time eliminates him. Baronic with a huge pick from there. Johnny used the Lord of the Afterlife, but Scream will chase him down with a Brutalize and take another one off the board. Now it's just Raffer and Ducky to run, as they are going to be the main defense here. Zeros is available for him. Ragnarok comes up, and just in time to take Raffer down.
Shame on me for calling for the back and buy. Had not taken into account that the Valhalla Valkyries liked that tier 2 tower more than they liked their own Phoenix. A harder defense put up there, and a harder punish by the Solar Scarabs.
Slow start from the Scarabs, but nothing shy of a quick end for it. It was 7 minutes and nothing was going on, but now they're looking for a 24-minute end. I say that, but Zeros is able to put down 1. SOT caught inside the ultimate, but Zeros doesn't have enough damage to take down all 5 members of the Scarabs. The Scarabs will be able to take game number 1.
Kills early, got really ahead, and finished 10-0-6. Also worth noting that the 2 dogs in the game go undying. So that's really celebrating the holiday properly.
I think that says a lot, honestly. A little bit of a preview, you know, that sneak peek of the Scream show. You know, you did kind of hype him up, Aggro. I'm not gonna lie, with him doing something crazy here. And
yeah. Okay, I'm going to throw him under the bus,
really all that crazy, though.
No, let me throw him under the bus, actually, because he has a very good game. 2-0 and 11, I think it was, 15,000 damage. But he told me last night that he was going to build full damage, that he was sick of all this hybrid build nonsense. My man's bought Mystical Mail this Valhalla Valkyries. Seems like the Valkyries have chosen to stay in that first pick position, just as they were last time around. And they let off by banning 2 of the premier backliners that you would expect to see coming out of your first pick slots in Artemis and Tiamat. Maybe those gods staying open and at least forcing the Scarabs to ban them might be the call.
Well, Artemis, that's going to be a reoccurring ban out for the Valhalla Valkyries. They don't seem as though they really want Emilito to be prioritized in this Artemis, and it is tough to take Artemis early on in a draft, but in that second pick position, she could definitely make for a nice secondary pick as a response. So I understand. I could definitely respect that. Tiamat ban as well. I think that's more so to do with the fact that Zeros maybe not feeling as comfortable trying to pilot the likes of a Tiamat from ping. If this is a Zeros on land, I guarantee we see him jumping at the opportunity to play that Tiamat.
Interesting as it is Gilgamesh banned here by the Solar Scarabs, still focusing in particular on that front line. Maybe that's the call, as the Valkyries end up deciding that they've had enough of the Solar Patrol Cerberus, and for good reason, as we saw in game number 1. So it ends up being a slight change in the bans, here from the Valkyries, whereas the Scarabs still stick with that same sort of mentality, Raijin off the board, and a couple of frontliners as well.
Yeah, also, you know what's fun about Gilgamesh and Osiris? I don't know why, but because we've been seeing so much of both of them lately, I completely mixed up in that breakdown, you know. I was talking about Johnny. He was still at 25-30% HP Osiris, though. That's besides
a warrior
the fact
with low HP.
A warrior with low HP is getting chased by Giannis. Cue the Benny Hill theme music. The fact that Veronic dies in the process, I think that's something that, you know, Solar Scarabs, they had a couple of kinks along the way, but for the most part, were able to smooth things over for that Game 1 victory. Still, Yemoja locked in place, first and outright for the Valhalla Valkyries, so doesn't seem as though they felt like the Yemoja was really much of an issue. Have to agree with them. I think it was more so just the fact that if you're going to take the Yemoja, then when you look for those team fights, you've got to make sure that you get that forced separation in my mind, and didn't really get a chance to see a whole lot of that, and I think part of it was due to the fact that Scarabs, they just had this Giannis, Baronic, get out of jail free card, essentially.
And he gets it once again, top 2 for the mid laner, but this time the Valkyries are going to top 2 a mage, and it is that hell. Remember, this was banned in the bottom 2 by the Solar Scarabs in Game 1. We've seen the Kings take this to Variety the vast majority of the time. We've seen other teams give it to their mid laners. Where do you expect this to be going for the Valks?
Well, for starters, I think that as far as Zeros is concerned, I would probably rather see the Hell in mid, just because Hell does have a lot of burst damage early on. Could be a strong way to negate the effects of this Giannis in that mid to late game. Punish him early, suppress him, prevent him from really hitting that steep mobility point, and Osiris, again, something that can further complement a mage with a lot of burst damage. And I also like the idea of the cleanse. I think that right now Fafnir doesn't exactly scream all the crowd control in the world. I think that you can definitely alleviate some of that pressure through that Hell cleanse. And if anything, even if this isn't intended for the mid lane here for Zeros, I think at the very least, leaving it as vague as it is still puts a little bit more pressure onto the Scarabs in terms of, do we want to ban more mages, or do we need to look towards solo?
It's a good point. Yeah, I think so too. Leave it a little bit ambiguous and make the Scarabs guess what you're going to do. As it is Heimdall this time around for Stewart, this was picked top 3 by the Valkyries in Game 1. Kept it out of his hands. Now he gets his hands back on it. Up against that Yemoja, getting that extra bit of safety against River's Rebuke always feels good.
Also, just taking out that Heim in general, I have to remember the Valks prioritized this in Game 1, but this time around, like I said, if they want to make this Hell the mage, the premier mage, then good looks. I don't think that it's outright a bad choice option. If anything, kind of excited to see how Zeros would choose to play this god, because right now I think the most outstanding performances, in my memory at least, are definitely stemming from his Raijin debuts, and I think that Hell, while she's not Raijin by any means, again, it's really just all about the burst, and I just prefer to see the Valhalla Valkyries try to lean a little bit more into that early game, because I feel if they can get a lead in the early, that's going to help them a lot more around the objective play.
Getting ahead certainly can cover up some of those mistakes later on that we've seen at times, as it is some split bans here by the Scarabs. They don't know exactly where it's going, so they make sure they get some value either way, with Ram and Wukong taken off the board. And then Fenrir Saket, 2 CC heavy gods out of the jungle. That seems like what the Solar Scarabs have liked for Scream recently, so it makes some sense as to why the Valkyries decide to go that direction. And that leaves Solar Troll and Scream, that right side of the map that really dominated in Game 1, as the 2 players who still need picks here for the Scarabs.
Well, as far as Guardians are concerned, I think that Terra still up for grabs here. Could be a strong frontlining asset for the likes of the Solar Scarabs. Seems as though they're toying around with the idea of this Bacchus. Have to imagine it's for that Belch ability because of the anti-heal options, and not really a whole lot of anti-heal options left if that's the immediate response that the Solar Scarabs are trying to accomplish here. If they do believe that this Hell is intended for Zeros, well, what better way to deal with it than by introducing a lot of dive, and who better to dive than Thor?
Thor, plenty of it, and you know that both Scream and Solar Troll love this pick, so still some ambiguity in the draft, though pretty late for the Scarabs, won't get ban value out of it. As it's Neath for the Valkyries, we've seen this go mid, but with a Hunter spot open, I think it might not be going that way as Kronos gets locked in. So now, I'm looking at this draft, it looks to me like Neath mid, Kronos ADC, and it is going to be Ducky on the Hell.
It is indeed. I would be hard-pressed to believe that it's not going to be Emilito piloting this Kronos. However, Aggro, I think the concern now becomes, well, you had the Emoja in game 1.
Aggro was talking about on the desk. It's probably not a god that really many people at all should be playing. Aside, who'd he miss?
Amelito missed the red buff.
Oh, okay. He did. I thought you were gonna go, because I saw when Aggro was talking about, only Scream should be playing. I saw you making some motions like.
Oh, I mean, my Bastet is sick. If that's what you're trying to get out of me, and I will talk about it. Aggro is laughing, but it's PTSD laughs from me absolutely fragging his Raijin on the box days with my Bastet. But you know what the desk forgot to mention? Bastet's not just good into Ducky on this hell, but kind of frags Emelito on the Chronos. I mean, I don't care how much your rewind does if you're going to get pounced for 1,500 in the late game.
Back at you before you can even have the opportunity to do so. Kind of makes that rewind null and void. Zeros in the mid lane also very susceptible to it just because that backflip's so telegraphed, so they can be able to chase him down. They're looking for a chase against Johnny, who's walked a little far forward against Baronic. An inbound Scream leaps over the wall, beads out of Johnny, and Scream still looking for the chase, gets the lash for some big damage against Johnny, but Johnny gets a nice riptide from Raffer, able to get away, but it looks like he's trying to turn back to fight because now Zeros has rotated back over to try and support him.
Disarm from inbound is good, but
Johnny,
the damage better.
Not going to make it out of here. Stewart rotates through. It is a 4v4 fight by the Gold Fury, but Stewart's the one who comes out with the benefits. 2-0 for first blood for the Hunter, and they may still be looking for more. Zeros has to run away from inbound all the way back at his red buff this early in the game.
But it's Stewart versus Emelito, and Emelito doesn't realize that Scream doesn't care about the honorable 1v1.
Emelito loses out on the beads and maybe losing his life as well. One more basic is all that Stewart needed, but he misses, and Emil able to just barely make it out, but not without losing out of the beads. Johnny lost his in the fight previously. Let's just say the Scarabs are looking to scrap right away. Force damage against them, and now make their retreat back into the jungle.
All that pressure established by the Scarabs dual lane does force Johnny to start his rotation over to try and alleviate some of that. Walks about halfway, turns around, realizes that is the end of the fight. Scream, though, is trying to catch out the jungler.
Scream looking for Johnny. Johnny down to half health, uses Lord of the Afterlife over the wall through space and time from Baronic. Doesn't manage to find anybody, but does get him back to the lane faster and back towards the fight a little bit quicker. Inbound, going for the Bracer after it's seen its recent adjustments. Now it gives you a little bit more movement speed right off the bat for it, and then once you upgrade it, you do get a little bit more damage. I'll expect we'll see some more of this. PBM was kind of toying around with it before it got the buff, and now that it is buffed, we're seeing it a couple more times. And Emelito caught inside the rivers. He'll use the rewind immediately to get back towards some form of safety, but there's no safety for him. He's stuck inside his own purple buff. Baronic low, Johnny looking for him, but Zeros grabs him.
Johnny, Raffer, and Zeros trying to keep the chase up here. Solar Scarabs deep in enemy territory. Scream just now losing the ultimate stance means that his damage takes a major hit.
Inbound, able to make it away, has the leap available with Zeros and Raffer here. They're going to try and take them away. Zeros gets a root against Stewart, but Scream jumps in, forcing Zeros to backflip out. Raffer, Zeros, and Johnny all looking a little worse for wear. They'll all make their way back as soon as Raffer attempts to finish clearing out the wave. Needs a little bit of help, and luckily Johnny will be there to give it for him.
Ducky is able to steal away the blue buff from SOT. I'm sure he'd appreciate a slight rotation over from his team.
Instead, he decides to take matters in his own hand. He rotated over towards mid to get a little bit of poke against Zeros, and immediately had to go back. Otherwise, he was going to lose a little too much experience towards that tower. Ducky was pushing the wave away. Stewart is going for an aggressive dive near the Tier 1 tower to try and take down Emelito. Emelito takes quite a bit, but the Rivers Rebuke comes out from Raffer and an escape option available for them. Inbound goes to the Contra Transformation. Johnny looking a little worse for wear as he's trying to make a nice escape, but immediately through the Bifrost, Stewart will go just to get away from the fight. Baronic gets hit by the World Weaver ultimate, and that'll be more than enough as Ducky rotates over towards the Fury and picks him up.
Scream still hovering around the edge with that ultimate available, does tick off, so his damage, again, not going to be so good. Raffer, though, gets hit by SOT.
Raffer never went back to base, and he gets caught out for an SOT. His beads are down, so he'll get caught by the stun from Emelito, and that'll be a double kill now for Ducky as they start setting up towards the Gold Fury. Inbound is here. A little bit low on the steal potential from this Fafnir, but it's not completely out of the question. The question is how much burn do the Valhalla Valkyries have? Instead, he'll use the hammer to try and take down Zeros, and Valkyries do manage to take that Fury.
I like that Inbound doesn't use his leap to try and steal that away, but maybe a little too late at that rate. Ducky now has Heavenly Sprint and beads available, and defense as well, so Scream gonna have to work very hard to shut him down.
Lotus Crown is going to give some big protections off of the heels. Emelito use the beads to get away from Through the Realms, but that's not going to save him from the damage that ensues after Inbound and Stewart team up to take down Emelito, put him in the grayscale screen.
It's how well Stewart is able to keep him down, and so far, they're doing a very good job of it.
Raffer saw some decent value out of the Stone of Fall last game, and it looks like Emilitu thought that it looked pretty nice, and it looks like he may be building towards it himself to get a little bit of that extra tankiness, a little bit of that damage for it. And that damage mitigation, Solar Troll, he's going to need a little bit of help as he dunks away, gets hit by the stun on the tail end of the dunk, and looks like he'll be able to make it out fine. Raffer's looking towards him, but Emilitu doesn't recognize the triple gank that's coming his way. Scream inbound, and Stewart will team up to try and find him. Rewind goes through. That's just going to throw him right back in the lane. And Inbound was waiting for him on the tail end. Stun comes through, holds Scream in place, but Inbound goes in for the transformation. Scream leaps under the tower. Inbound leaps in, and Emil, he's not going to make it out as the breath from Inbound off that stun will be enough to take him down.
Is Scream maxing Pounce? That damage was crazy. Maybe 50% of Emilito's health bar off the jump alone. Just absolutely wild what Bastet is capable of doing, and that's before Transcendence is fully stacked. He's got a ton of CDR as well. Are doing very well, especially Ducky, who's still maintaining that lead. It is a 2-level deficit for Kronos inside of the long lane, but that's within the parameters of acceptable losses, I'd say. I mean, he's going to hit level 20 eventually regardless.
Pyromancer started, it's getting low. Valhalla Valkyries will take it, but Inbound and Baronic are here to try and stop them. Hammer comes through and a dunk from SOT, but it's only on Raffer, and he's not the primary target for those teams as he's rather tanky. Drops the River's Rebuke just to give himself an escape option and allow Ducky to escape as well.
Scream, seeing if maybe he could isolate Zeros, but that is going to be the end of that engagement. Pyromancer does fall, and the Solar Scarabs looking to do a little bit more on the map. Tier 1 tower and mid, yeah, that's gone.
Inbound gets a hammer stun against Zeros, but Zeros holds onto the beads, recognizing there was no further follow-up. Raffer rotates back over. The top Zeros' health bar up with a nice heal, and Emilitu all the while decides he's going to make his sight set towards a Tier 1 tower. Scream use the Aegis against the World Weaver, and that's the trigger for Inbound to go to the Draconic form. He gets rooted out instantly upon transforming in. Raffer gets smacked by through space and time, and Stewart's last basic will take him down. That puts Stewart on a rampage for the Scarabs already at that 5-0.
Zeros was able to take the Aegis off of Scream, but Bobby was able to take the beads off of Johnny, so now he's going to have to play much safer inside of these engagements. And the Solar Scarabs strip away the Tier 1 tower. They take the life from Raffer, and what's spawning up just now? Primal Fury right now. Ducky does make his rotation over, and it could be a pool here. Double Hunter composition between Kronos and this Neath in mid means that this Gold Fury, if it does get pulled, is going to burn very fast.
Stewart uses the Bifrost as an escape after getting the Draugr, and that'll be the call for the Primal Fury. Ult out of Zeros, only finds SOT, who's in no major danger as he dunks back trying to find Johnny, but he's being distracted while the Primal Fury started up. Inbound and Stewart are here to try and stop this one. Primal down to about half, but Inbound goes for the transformation. Ultimate out of Raffer, trying to zone away. Stewart will do some decent damage back to him. Inbound gets stunned. Zeros is here, gets the root against them. Leap in from Inbound, and the ultimate from Baronic to try and close the gap. SOT manages to find Johnny on the right side of the map, but all here on the left side, it's Inbound and Baronic teaming up to take down Zeros. Now 3 low for the Solar Scares, and Emil and Ducky are looking to continue fighting back.
Inbound may have taken it a couple steps too far, but great portal. Should get him out of there, but the D-transform spells the end of his life. Maybe not?
Okay, hold on. This is a roller coaster of emotion. Somehow Inbound gets through 2 separate portals to make it out. SOT, after killing Johnny on the right side, rotates all the way left and makes a huge impact, now picking up 2 more kills for the Scarabs, and maybe even going for the delayed deicide here, taking down Raffer. That's a deicide for the Scarabs.
Scarabs 12-3, 17 minutes into this game, finally find themselves with a fair deal of separation in both experience and gold. Around 5,000. Gold in favor of the Solar Scarabs, and
3 more kills off the tail end of it. And can we just talk about the roller coaster that we went through watching Inbound?
I mean, yes, it was a roller coaster. I thought he was dead for sure. Maybe a slow rotation from the Valhalla Valkyries. That D-transform with a Kronos on your team should probably spell his death, considering he was sub 20% HP, but was able to use the Coerce just before D-transforming, and then right after, and then utilizing those portals from Baronic, is able to escape with his life. Inbound playing on the knife's edge, and it's playing to his favor.
Inbound leaps in, looking for a stun against Ducky, but he'll get stunned by the wall from SOT instead. SOT puts him down, puts his 4th kill on the board, and Scream is looking for more, walks through the portal to try and cut off the option, but Zeros backflips against the wall, and that may not be the place you wanted to backflip as SOT picks up the double kill, looking to go to the sky for a dunk down, looking for Johnny as he's surrounded by 3, but he doesn't need it as Baronic takes him out.
So now it's 3 members dead of the Valhalla Valkyries and 5 members of the Solar Scarabs, at least mid-adjacent, Fire Giant adjacent. SOT kind of going for a little bit of a split push, but can't argue against it. I'm not sure that Emilito and Raffer together could even take him down. Fire Giant should go to all 5 members, but keep your eyes on this Kronos. He's going for a flank.
Emel's trying for it. Scream rotate out. Fire Giant is still available. Gets the stun, but can't get in time to try and go for the steal. In fact, it looks like they just managed to get that Fire Giant through before he gets in. A nice attempt by Emil, but ends up losing out on his rewind because of it.
He does, but does he lose out on his life? Not this time around. SOT not quite in range to find that wall, but what will the Valhalla Valkyries lose? Well, a tier 1 tower in the soul lane.
Discussed briefly earlier, he's only got a root. That's our only form of CC. Everything else is straight raw damage coming from this god, so he needs to get that full power build going. SOT has a little bit more play with his build as he can go towards this more hybrid style, and he's now zoning 3 people away from a tier 2 tower. Has Ducky, Raffer, and Johnny all distracted while Scream tries to steal away this tier 2 tower and will be successful in doing so. Stewart has to be careful, uses the Aegis to get away from the damage from the stun of Emil. Veronica's here to try and save his life and will manage to do so.
Emil saying, Stewart, bud, you might have got the better end earlier, but now I'm starting to approach that late game. Can't just walk into my tower through me, and, well, he was not able to. Stewart forced back to base here, and Emil maintains everything.
SOT takes over half of Zeros' health by himself, goes up into the Anvil of Dawn looking for a target to dunk down, but it will be Emilitu that he ends up dunking against and uses the hammer just to port himself back out towards the tier 2 tower. He'll reunite with Scream in order to start pushing the second tier 2 tower on the map, and there's only one left for them to try and go for, and it looks like Veronica has made his way towards that side to start the push.
Stewart slowly crossing the map himself. Once he starts to rejoin the rest of his team, should spell the beginning of these Phoenix sieges. SOT, so annoying at this point, so tanky against all this magic damage from the Valhalla Valkyries. He's doing whatever he wants, but inbound should spell the start of this siege. Transformation into the dragon into a coerce, given just a little bit of time and space, could shut down this Phoenix pretty fast.
Looking for an opportunity to go through. Scream throws the cat against Raffer just to root him in place, but inbound taking a little bit of damage from Ducky and from Emilitu, so he'll have to leap away, and it looks like the Scarabs are happy with going for a retreat here. They still hit the Fire Giant for a little over a minute and a half still, but seems like they're going to set their sights towards this Oni Fury as it has respawned.
Clean Fire Giant and then start to knock on the door of these Phoenixes.
They got 4 pushing up mid. They left SOT to his own devices right side of the map to push up that wave and looking to maybe steal away a Scorpion and maybe a life or 2 along with it. Raffer loses out on half of his health bar. Ducky, fortunately, they're able to heal him back up with this hell, and the Emoja coupling together with some heals, but and upgraded in the exact instance, and you need to. You're going up against this double heal comp, and when they're also both running the Lotus Crown, that's a lot of protection that they can stagger between themselves no matter who that heal goes towards.
I like seeing Stewart utilize that vision. He steps up, uses the first ability, and then starts to back his way away, just making sure that the Valhalla Valkyries cannot step too far forward, and maybe Zeros does just that.
Zeros lost over 600 health just about from that pounce, and maybe losing out on even more. River's Rebuke comes through from Raffer to disengage the fight, but SOT is looking for a dunk down from the ult. He'll find Raffer and Ducky, but immediately ports away and goes for the stun. Now 4 have turned their sights towards SOT. Johnny and Zeros engaging through. Zeros even expending the backflip to go through, but there's a portal from Baronic just to make sure he can get out, but Emilito has caught him on the tail end of the portal. Inbound is here with the stun, but Emil gets the rewind.
Scream does pounce in and does not have the ability to jump back just yet. Dropped down by 50% thanks to the damage from Zeros and Ducky. But Solar Scarabs, they've established a defensive positioning yet again. Heal that the Scarabs have elected to pick up. They still are not able to finish off their kills. They are not able to really commit to these team fights for too long, and it's exemplified by the 2 people standing in front right now. Ducky and Raffer are just sustaining way too much. They're tanky, and they're keeping everybody else topped off.
And finally, Baronic will answer with some anti-heal of his own. It's really, realistically, only been these Brawlers, Beatsticks, and the Cursed Ankh when inbound can get them off in the fights, but outside of that 40% you're getting from these 2 assassins who are not fully focusing on the same targets. Zeros, yeah, he's being chased out, but that just means it's anti-heal from Scream only on 1 instance. He's not able to spread it through. Inbound leaps in, finds Ducky, and gets the ultimate out of Raffer, and he's going to be evaporated in the midst of his own waters, but Inbound and Scream are both low as well. SOT goes in the sky, finds both Zeros and Ducky, dunking down in. Zeros able to flip away through space and time, misses, and Zero's on the wrong side of the wall for SOT. He's going to get rooted away, but Stewart finds one. SOT with the spin finds another. Baronic closes it out, and Johnny all the while does manage to find Scream, but that's a 4-for-1 for the Scarabs.
Better believe SOT is not going to let Johnny go back to base easily at that low HP and no true escapability. It's only a matter of time until SOT is able to close gap. Right side, Phoenix falls expeditiously, and Johnny, well, he's still on tour. SOT just trying his best.
Johnny is flailing about, just trying to get any sustain that he can and take any boxing match he can, but it's too little too late for him, as he will likely fall down to SOT while the Titan is being sieged by the rest of the Scarabs. Raffer is here to try and play bodyguard for it, but that's only one lone support to try and stop this one. Stewart is getting low. Titan will turn its sights back towards inbound and will fall down. Solar Scarabs playing with their food a little bit, but at the end of the day, do come up with the 2-0 win.
Valhalla Valkyries, and even in those instances where we saw them grouping and attempting to try and challenge on some of those objectives, they just fell short. Just not really anything that Johnny or Emilito and Raffer could really do. The dual lane falling behind relatively early on here as well. Valk's just getting punished where it mattered, I think.
I mean, the duo lane for the Scarabs looked great today. Stewart had a great scoreline. Inbound did as well. The other side, the Valkyries duo lane goes 0-10. It's going to be difficult when that's usually how it goes over there. That 7th seed going into the end of Phase 2.
Yeah, you really just outed Bobby there, though. He could have played it off as the whole, I'm so excited to show off this Inside Apparel Scarabs merch, you know.
Sure.
A new dawn rises, and
I thought he came to get it. It's been here for over a week. I'm going to be honest. I wasn't here last week. I assumed he came to get it. But, you know, hey, Bobby's a busy man. You know, he's doing quite a bit, including improving at that Yamoja, apparently. Take a look at the rest of this week's schedule. We've got the Oni Warriors and Camelot Kings tomorrow, alongside the Bolts and the Valkyries again, closing out their Phase 2. But most importantly, Taco, it's our next game here today, the Bolts versus the Leviathans. It's so important, not just because it's a great matchup between two of the best teams in our league.